The average Nigerian does not want to pay tax. So what's your take?
It's not a Nigerian problem. Nobody wants to pay tax.
Oh, wow.
There's nothing new under the new laws about the fact that influencers and creators would be taxable. The only difference is that the interest that has been generated by the new laws have somehow beamed the light on some of the old provisions and made them to look as though they're actually new provisions.
Where someone carried out a transaction from their bank apps and then they put in a narration that, oh, I am just sending this to him, or he asked me for urgent 2K, please don't tax this gift. What is your take on this, sir? Is this a myth or is that the case?
What do you think?
If you ask me, now who I go ask?
I don't know where that came from. I have not come across any law that says that tax liabilities would be based on narrations, in bank transfers. It's always better to be on the right side of the law. Non-compliance with tax obligations can inflict some serious pains. In all you do, ensure that you are always compliant.
This is legally speaking with Richard and me. This is legally speaking with Richard and me.
A lot has been said about the new tax laws and how it affects the average Nigerian on the streets. There is a lot of news flying around, what to do, what not to do, in order to make sure that you remit your tax accurately. And here on Legally Speaking with Barrister Timmy, we deemed it necessary to have this conversation with someone who is a professional and knows his onion as far as Nigerian taxation is concerned. So with me on the channel today is Agbada S. Agbada. He is the best fit for this job. So welcome with me, my very senior colleague, Agbada S. Agbada. Sir, you're welcome.
Thank you very much, Nimotimi. I'm happy to be here.
Before we go into the meat of the gist, can you briefly introduce yourself to us?
Okay, my name is Agbada S. Agbada, a senior associate with the law firm of Aluko and Oyebode in the firm's dispute resolution and tax practice. My areas of specialization are taxation and commercial litigation.
Thank you so much, sir. So like I mentioned earlier, a lot has been said about the new tax laws. There are a lot of myths out there that needs clarity and clarification to the average Nigerian on the streets, because this channel is for the average Nigerian on the streets to be clear as to the position of the law. So one of the things is Nigerians are now like, the president is coming for our monies, he's coming for our pockets, and people are already guiding themselves against liability. So can you clarify the new tax laws that we have now?
Thank you, Nimotimi, for that question. And it is true that a lot has been said about the new tax laws. Now, what are the new tax laws? These laws consist of 4 pieces of legislation: the Nigeria Tax Act, the Nigeria Tax Administration Act, the Nigeria Revenue Service Establishment Act, and the Joint Revenue Board Establishment Act. These enactments were signed into law on the 26th of June 2025 by the President of Nigeria, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. Now, the Nigeria Tax Act that I mentioned provides for the taxation of income of persons, individuals, companies, transactions, instruments in Nigeria. This law repeals all old principal taxation legislation that we had in the country, including the Companies Income Tax Act, the Personal Income Tax Act, the Value Added Tax Act, the Capital Gains Tax Act. But in addition, it also repeals the fiscal provisions of other enactments like the Petroleum Industry Act of 2021, the Startup Act. Now, these other laws that I mentioned had certain provisions that were dealing with taxation. So this new law has now repealed those provisions. So what we have under the current regime is a uniform framework. So if you want to know anything about the taxation of companies or persons or transactions. You don't need to be looking at different pieces of legislation to understand it. It's just one-stop shop. So this is what the Nigeria Tax Act does. The Nigeria Tax Administration Act provides the framework for tax administration in Nigeria. It prescribes penalties for non-compliance with tax obligations. It provides for timelines for filing, timelines for payments, and other tax compliance obligations.
Thank you so much, sir. One of the major reforms that I've heard about on the streets is digital taxation, how that the current tax law now aims at taxing digital income earners like influencers, content creators like me who are aspiring to earn in dollars, and that will not even be taxed in naira or be taxed in the currency that we earn. So I would like you to shed more light on this aspect of the tax reform, sir.
There is nothing new about the fact that influencers and creators would be taxable, because under the old laws, they were indeed taxable. All Nigerians, irrespective of the source of income or the medium through which you are earning income, were subject to tax. So there's nothing new under the new laws about the fact that influencers and creators would be taxable. The only difference is that the interest that have been generated by the new laws have somehow beamed the light on some of the old provisions and made them to look as though they are actually new provisions. The law requires every Nigerian resident to pay tax on his or her global income. What that means is that Nigerians are required or obligated to pay tax on their worldwide income, irrespective of where that income is being earned from. So the income could be sourced offshore, or it could be sourced or earned locally. It could be through the provision of digital goods or services, or through the provision of physical goods or services. So your income from all sources, online and offline, will be subject to tax, not just under the new laws, but even under the old laws. Now, regarding the issue about currency of the transaction, the thing is, the old laws also required that tax should be paid in the currency of the transaction. So if you earn in USD, you should pay tax in USD. There are some versions of the new laws that retain those old provisions, but I've also seen a version that provides that even where income is earned in foreign currency and assessment is made in foreign currency, the taxpayer can be allowed to convert to naira at the official exchange rate and pay tax in naira. I don't know how the Nigeria Revenue Service would proceed on assessment in the currency of the transactions. In the coming weeks or months, there will be more clarity on whether tax would only be payable in the currency of the transaction, or Nigerians will be allowed to convert to naira and pay tax in naira.
Wow. Thank you so much for that enlightenment.
Thank you.
To my tech bro and tech sis, you see that it is no news. There was already a framework that allows you to pay your tax. You were not exempted before. It's just that light has been beamed on this area. And so don't shy away from your responsibilities. And whether it's going to be paid in naira or in dollars or in euros, whichever the case may be, clarity will be made, like he said, in the coming weeks or coming months. On a lighter mood and to a very lighter question, I've seen personally myself where someone carried out a transaction from their bank apps and then they put in a narration that, oh, I am just sending this to him, or he asked me for urgent 2K, please don't tax on this gift. So, and I've seen that. I've actually seen write-ups from people saying that, oh, if you put in your narrations well, ensure that whatever transaction you carry out, you make sure that you put the accurate narration so that you are not taxed unnecessarily. What is your take on this, sir? Is this a myth or is that the case?
What do you think?
If you ask me, now who I go ask?
But on a serious note, I don't know. I don't know where that came from, right? And I have not come across any law that says that tax liabilities would be based on narrations, in bank transfers. The truth of the matter is that your narrations are irrelevant to whether tax will be payable on a particular income or not. It is not your narrations that will determine whether tax will be charged on any income. And I also understand that, there is this belief that cash gifts would not be taxable. I wish that there was some clear provision in the law that expressly exempts cash gifts from tax, right? But I haven't found any provisions in the laws that exempt cash gifts from tax. So I do not think that you would enjoy any tax advantage by narrating your bank transfers as gifts or whatever description you want to give it. But in addition, it is also very important to note that tax is not paid on a transaction basis. I'm talking about income tax. It is not paid on a transaction basis. I had earlier mentioned in responding to one of the previous questions that Nigerians are required to pay tax on their worldwide income. What this means is that you aggregate your income from all sources and then you calculate your tax liability on that income and make the payment yourself at the end of the year. It is an annual tax. Income tax is an annual tax. It's not a transaction by transaction tax. So if someone transfers 10 million to you and probably the money doesn't even belong to you, or the person asks you to use the money to, for instance, buy stuff or to run errands for the person at the end of the year, because that is not your income. That is not the 10 million naira that will be taxable. As a matter of fact, in calculating your tax liability, you won't even be reckoning with that as your income. So it's really not true that your narrations or descriptions in bank transfers would either exempt you from tax or reduce your tax liability in any way.
I would call this a myth buster. Like we just broke a table right now. So if you are putting narration out there just to be exempted or not to carry out your tax obligations, you have to do a rethink. Emeka, please do a rethink.
And Jumoke.
Jumoke, so please do a rethink. Before we wrap up this episode, I want to find out, in comparison to other climes, does the Nigerian tax reform, is it in alignment with international best practices? Are we being undertaxed or are we being overtaxed as Nigerians? Because the average Nigerian does not want to pay tax. So what's your take?
It's not a Nigerian problem. Nobody wants to pay tax.
Oh, wow.
Billionaires live in countries like the UK simply because of the tax issues in those countries. So really, nobody wants to pay tax. But to the question whether Nigerians are being undertaxed or they are being overtaxed, what I will say is that, in my opinion, and this is my opinion, though, I don't believe that Nigerians are overtaxed. Are Nigerians being undertaxed? I also don't believe that Nigerians are undertaxed at all, because I don't want to invite the government to start treating Nigerians are not being undertaxed, but I think that we have a largely fair income tax system. Now, whether the tax reforms, the new tax laws align with international best practices and what is obtainable in other climes, I want to say that yes, largely the new tax laws align with international best practices and what happens in other places. And I'll give a few examples. The new tax laws have introduced certain provisions to ensure that there are no revenue leakages, right? Or there are as few revenue leakages as possible. And it has done so by introducing concepts like taxation of gains derived by non-resident persons from indirect transfers of assets in Nigeria. These are concepts that I may not be able to fully explain on this episode. But in addition, there is something called effective minimum tax rate of 15% that has been introduced under the new tax laws. This tax rate applies to members of multinational enterprise groups that have a group turnover of not less than 750 million euros. These new provisions will ensure that such large M&A groups pay a fair share of tax in Nigeria. This is consistent with the reforms that have been introduced by the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development, the OECD, which introduced global minimum tax that is required to apply to large M&A groups to counteract what is called base erosion and profit shifting. In other words, tax planning schemes by multinationals. Another provision that I think that is in alignment with what international best practice is the introduction of income tax for Nigerians who are working in international organizations like the World Bank. Now, these international organizations, most times they enjoy several immunities, right? And one of the immunities is their employees are immune from the tax laws of the country where the organization is. So if, for instance, a Nigerian, if Nimi were to get employed by the World Bank, for instance, and she's working in the World Bank in their New York or wherever office, her salaries would not be taxable in the US. But at the same time, her salaries would not be taxable in Nigeria.
Well.
So, I mean, they are enjoying double non-taxation.
Wow.
So what the new laws have done is to ensure that if you fall in this category, you pay tax in Nigeria, even if you are not staying in Nigeria. These are just a few examples, but I believe that the new laws largely are in alignment with international trends, and I think the reforms are largely very good.
Wow. Thank you so much for this enlightening, mind-opening. It's been a very interesting conversation around the new tax laws, and one of these days I'm hoping that we go live so Nigerians have the opportunity to ask a lot of questions, because I know that by the time this video goes online there will be a lot of questions in the comment section. So I want to encourage you, put down your questions in the comment section. I also would like you to follow Agbada Stephen on all his social media platforms. I think you are on,
including YouTube.
Oh, you have a channel now?
Yes, I do. I just do tax videos. I just post tax videos, providing breaking tax issues down to in a very simplified way for people to understand.
Wow, you are doing a very great job, especially in this 2026. So
Thank
follow my senior colleague. Another thing. So we are both from the Niger Delta University. We are proud to all our friends from Niger Delta University. This is Agbada, Stephen Agbada. As a matter of fact, he was one of my role models in the university. He had advocacy skills that he has put inside his pocket and is going after tax. It was a source of encouragement for me in my moot and mock trials. He was well known for that, and he represented his school even outside the shores of Nigeria.
It's okay. Nimi is sorry to me. It's okay.
So I know what I'm saying when I said he's the best fit for this job. Thank you so much. You're doing a wonderful work. So follow him across all platforms. So what's your name on YouTube, please? What's your YouTube handle?
ASA's Tax Corner. That's my YouTube handle.
Oh, all right. So
ASA's Tax Corner.
the laws are not new entirely. The reforms are not new entirely. It's just that a lot of publicity has been made around the tax laws, and that is because laws are meant for the citizens and not just legislations that should remain on paper. So, and we are trying on our part to ensure that you are abreast with the current position as it is, and not just hearsay or what you feel the law is. This is what the law is. Narrations will not exempt you from being taxed or from tax liability, and digital taxation has been all the while. It's just that light has shone on it, and I want you to come to terms with the new tax laws. And like you mentioned, all federal tax laws have now been put in just one single document, so you need not look further or look to pieces of legislation before you are aware of what the provision of the law is. So final thoughts.
Okay, final thoughts. I would say that it's always better to be on the right side of the law.
Yeah.
And non-compliance with tax obligations can inflict some serious pains, right? So in all you do, ensure that you are always compliant.
Wow, thank you so much, sir. We are very grateful to have you on this channel. We are very grateful. This was quite enlightening, even for myself. I have learned a lot. Till we come your way again, this is Inimotimi Oazi of Legally Speaking with Barrister Timi, keeping you legally conscious and aware.